All right, how's it going, everybody? We've got a guest with us today. We are here with Armilus Ben Belial. How are you doing today?
Doing great. How about yourself?
I am fantastic. Thank you for asking. So, how long have you been practicing?
So now I got two answers for this. So when
Sure.
I started like seriously practicing, I was I I was around 16 when I started doing like like real stuff. My first spell I cast was when I was 16, like that I was
Okay.
conscious of. I started meditating back when I was like 13.
Okay.
But before that, I always kind of knew that I was destined to do this sort of stuff because I'd play out in my yard. I'd think I'm casting spells. The most that I was ever able to do at that degree was I could make the wind blow sometimes.
That's something. Hey, that's something, man.
Yeah, right.
Okay. So it started with more
So,
more subtle things like meditation and weathermancy,
yeah,
and then agreement
exactly.
for current practice as you see it now.
Right. Nowadays, so let me think here. I am 25 now, so that's 9 years, right?
That's
16.
long enough.
Yeah. Nice.
So what interested you to begin with in magic? Was it just the mystery of it all, or was there a particular situation that was like, okay, that's what's going on?
So first off, like my initial interest in it came just when I was younger. I was like, let's see like if there's anything that's actually even remotely real about this. And that was me just thinking that as a little kid. And as I grew, when I was 13, my grandpa passed away. Me and him, we were like this.
Mm-hmm.
And I bet he's around right now watching this exact video. And basically that was what ignited my ascent, I would say, was him passing away. Because after that I was like, oh my God, how will I ever be able to see him again, or even know what's even going on? So I was like, hey, I'm gonna try learning evocation and all that sort of stuff. And I was that was among one of my first successful evocations.
Okay, a bit of necromancy.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Right.
Hey,
Absolutely.
necromancy is one of my focuses, so no harm there. I was actually really close to my grandpa as well. I was pretty much raised by my grandpa, so that's another thing we have in common.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I have so much love for the older generation, man. There's so much wisdom and just greatness there. So,
Right.
what are some of your favorite types of workings, if you don't mind sharing that with us?
So my favorite types of workings, I would say, like as far as the more mainstream side of things goes, I would say I absolutely love doing possessions, just getting possessed by a demon and just experiencing that flow and getting to have that very intimate, direct sort of experience with that. But as far as like less common things go, I love it when I just randomly will get this inspiration to do whatever, and then I try just whatever random thing came to mind, and bang bang boom.
That's one of the best parts about chaos magic is you just get immediate inspiration and you try to figure out, okay, how am I going to make this work? I'm going to take a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and next thing you know, you've got an operation, right?
Yeah, for real. I love it. And then like how it's you get a really nice like ritual design, and you can just like feel just before you even did it, like, man, this is gonna hit it. This is gonna hit it out the park.
Absolutely, yeah. And only some people have actually discussed that feeling, that sensation. So I wonder if it's just a certain type of magician or practitioner that gets that experience. But I'm no stranger to that. I mean, it's almost like a meal. You put it together and you put it in the oven, and then you can smell it and you're like, oh, that's gonna be good.
Yeah, right. For real.
Awesome. So we actually, yeah, as you mentioned, we had actually spoken a few months ago, and then I happened to see another one of your posts, and somehow there was no thuricide, there was no thorn in that post. I don't know how you managed to write an entire post without th, because I would have recognized it when I messaged you about the interview, and then when you replied back, I saw all of the thorns, all the Thurisaz runes, and I'm like, wait a minute, wait, we've spoken before, and you're like, yeah, you're right, we have. So tell us a little bit about you. You have this practice where you replace th in your sentences with the letter thorn or Thurisaz. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I'd love to. I'm glad you asked, as a matter of fact. One of the questions I was hoping that you would.
There you go. I must have heard it.
Yeah, right. I bet. Now, so basically with that, so it was part of a experiment I was doing called infoscaping, kind of like,
Okay.
you know what randonauting is, right?
I have no idea.
Okay, so it's essentially like using the quantum randomness number generator from the Australian National University, and basically through that it like detects the fluctuations in the quantum field, but in specific parameters. So
Okay.
I was like, you know, this is interesting. Like, and then there were people, you know, experimenting with the randonauting, which is, you know, going to places that you're directed at from the quantum chaos. So I'm like,
Wow.
you know, I wonder if we can do this through the internet, so I don't even have to get up. And I was like, let's try this. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this, and make like, it seemed like gibberish words at first. And I was like, I'm gonna do some experimentation with this. And over time, I was like, you know, I want to find something that I can like actually use that'll help kind of bring about like a greater amount of like macrocosmic evolution, more interconnectedness from everything. So I was like, you know, let's see how we can like really push the boundaries of this. So I went looking with the intent to get something that I could do that with, and the letter thorn was what ended up coming up. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna just give this a try and see what comes of it. And I found it's actually really useful for being able to access parts of the internet that you never would have known about before. So for example, like when somebody, you probably notice sometimes when I use that, there's people that'll come out of the woodwork and be hostile towards that. I find value even in people like that, because little do they know, we wouldn't even be having that conversation if it wasn't for the quantum chaos. So it's like, what is the quantum chaos trying to show me here from the reaction from this sort of person? So I kind of like use it as a key to secret places in the internet.
I love that you have that perspective of every interaction is an interaction with higher consciousness, because I have sort of, that resonates with me. And you sort of answered my next question was why thorn? Why not Fihu? Why not Uru? You know, why thorn? So you covered that a little bit. Now I guess my next question is, why only one? Why just one switched letter? Is there a reason for that, or is it just not come up to where? Okay, cool.
Very specific reason, as a matter of fact, because even though I would like to experiment with other aspects of that as well, I feel like if I were to go any more than just the one, like I get a lot of negative feedback as it is, and with people that'll just ignore my content. And it's like, you know, I want to push these boundaries, but I don't want to push it that much that people just be like, this guy's crazy. No, I'm not reading it.
It's funny because I tend to be, I don't know, I tend to work with rather adversarial currents. And I love the polarizing nature of it, because you get people like that are hostile, but then you get people like me that message you directly and are like, hey, what's going on with this? That's interesting. I've never seen that before. And then we develop a relationship. So I don't know, you can almost tell what kind of practitioner you're dealing with based on how polarized they are and how they react. So it's like a filter process. It's like a filter process as well.
Precisely. I was just about to mention that yeah, I do it specifically to see who's capable of cognitive flexibility and who's not.
I love it. I love it. That's one of that's one of the best things that you can do, I think, as a human being, is sort of wear or speak these filter processes. And it not only sort of parts the sea to help you get through, but it also attracts similar minds, and it has a way of just magnetizing higher consciousness in a way, and from my perspective.
Hell yeah, I couldn't agree more, man.
Awesome. So how and your in retrospect, I guess, how has magic changed your life for the better? How have these practices changed your life for the better?
Man, I would absolutely say so. Number one, made me a more integrated person. Like it wasn't until I like really started working with magic, like not just working with other, beings, but like, beginning to focus more on like my higher self, spirit
Sure.
animal, my shadow, and starting to work at integrating those, that I was able to really see like a really like, oh wow, like this is really important. I should have been doing it sooner.
Yeah,
And
no kidding.
right, man. So I would definitely say the integration of my person has gotten a lot more. I love watching how it like my consciousness develops
Yeah.
as I keep going. I love being able to witness how the energy just affects my day-to-day life and the people I come into contact with. The just the whole experience of it is just invaluable to me. I love it. Love
I
learning
agree.
new
I agree
things.
100%. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. Sorry. So
No, no,
tell us a little bit about spirit animals and shadow integration. That's an interesting topic. I know
hell yeah.
they're only so related, so we can tackle them one at a time if you want, or if they're so related that you tackle that in one phrase, feel free.
Right. So I would say for as far as shadow integration goes,
Mhm.
like here's so I like to go in like the bathroom. I turn off the lights and I look at myself in the mirror in the dark, and I watch as my face starts to change.
Mhm.
And I do that fairly often, and I go in there, and slowly it just you can kind of feel that energy start to set in. Like for me, I'm a lot more on like the kind of like feeling it side of things rather than like the hearing it or seeing it. So it's a lot more a non-verbal sort of interaction.
Sure.
I love being able like so there's that. Let me see. What else did I want to add with that? Hold on a second.
No worries.
So basically, not only that, but also like going about my day and challenging my ego actively. Like whenever there's like an issue that happened, if I got into an argument with someone or something, like looking back at it and maybe seeing that, hey, whatever it was that I was accusing that person of, even though it was valid, was exactly the same thing that I didn't notice that I myself was guilty of.
Right.
So like being able to have that you know that like direct teaching of like, hey, the thing you were trying to teach them was what we were trying to teach you.
And that's just another person or another instance of how higher spirit and consciousness comes in to interact with us on a day-to-day basis through other people.
Yeah, for real. For real. It is all just a giant interaction of energy, and just it's a beautiful thing.
It's all one big dance, man. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Couldn't have put it better. Now, as
Awesome.
far as the spirit animal goes, with that, I had a little trouble sensing my spirit animal at first.
Mhm.
I'm not going to state it publicly, of course. You and I can
Sure. No,
talk
no,
about
sure.
But basically, yeah, with the spirit animal integration, I found that it helps with my kind of like the natural instinctual guidance, as opposed from like the more conscious guidance from the
Yeah.
higher self.
Yep.
Yeah, you get it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm
Hell
always trying to draw that line between instinct and intuition. And in my experience, tie instinct to the shadow and the animal self, and intuition to the higher self or higher mind, or some people call it the holy guardian angel. I haven't had that experience per se, but yeah, I also feel the instinct in my gut, and the intuition is more like in my heart. So that's an interesting thing to try to integrate as well.
That is really cool. I didn't. That's interesting that like how like we're experiencing the same things, but just different in just a different sort of biological sort of way.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
that is so fucking cool.
It might come down to varying levels of clairvoyance, clairaudience, and clairsentience.
Right.
But who knows? Who knows?
Yeah,
So
for real.
you're actually the first person I've had on here talk about spirit animals. So that's really cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah,
Hey,
there you go.
that's badass.
So would you like to talk to us about what sort of things inspire you to do magic, or what inspired you to do magic originally in the first place?
Right. So, my main inspiration with doing magic is macrocosmic evolution, both
Excellent.
the microcosmic as well as the macrocosmic.
Love
It's
it.
all super important, and I love being able to know that the energies that I'm working with are helping to refine reality, open other people up that may not have been aware of whatever before. Or I love being able to know that it's causing upgrades, making this place a more demonic place overall.
I love it, man. I absolutely love it. You have an almost shamanistic approach, like healing the world, raising the global consciousness, spirit animals. It's so refreshing, because my background is actually very highly shamanic. So it's really cool again, something else we have in common.
Hey,
What are some of your biggest influences when it comes to practice?
so my biggest influences, like, are we talking individuals or?
Sure, let's start there. Yeah, let's start with maybe other, like, literature or film or other practitioners or anything like that.
I would definitely say that that, like, my biggest inspiration. So the first person that I came into contact. Now, I've never met these people in real life, of course.
Mhm.
So, but the first person's content that I came into contact with was E.A. Coetting.
Okay.
He had a lot of good content. I loved his YouTube channel, man. Like, this shit that got taken down, but basically his content was fantastic. I somehow managed to find his mastering evocation, mastering divination, and mastering soul travel training courses. I found those. And shamefully enough, I found them for free. So so I did use them. But yeah, so that, like, it really ignited my ascent
Sure.
in such a strong way. Like, I feel like it, like, getting those as like the first building blocks was completely indispensable. And then from there, I would say the next really influential person's content that I came across was VK Jahannam. His account, his YouTube channel now is Vidian. If you probably already knew, but
I just, within the last month, some of my partners introduced me to VK Jahannam. I'd gone 20 years writing my own rituals and ceremonies and incantations and everything. And then it's interesting because his workings remind me of my own in a lot of ways. And it makes me wonder if that's why I never really found him, because I was already doing my own thing for so long. But yeah, I just recently found out who he was,
awesome.
actually. Okay, so EA and VK.
Oh yeah. Yuppers. Those, yeah, I would say, like, those were absolutely the two most influential practitioners.
Okay.
Absolutely stellar content.
Okay, yeah, they're both immersed very heavily, and they say game recognized game. As somebody who lives and breathes this stuff, I can tell when I'm speaking with someone else who lives and breathes this stuff. So it's interesting to speak with somebody else who is as into it as I am, or maybe even more. Who knows,
man? I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily go that far, but I'm very into it. I do eat, sleep, and breathe this shit.
Yeah. I've discussed on the channel before. One of the things that ignited my career magically was I woke up one day and I went to do something, and the thought entered my head: does this make me a better practitioner? Does this make me a stronger person? And it was like, whoa, because I realized I could ask that at every single step of throughout the day, every single action, every single thought. It was like, does this make me a better magician or a worse magician? Does this make me a better human being or a worse human being? So
Right.
yeah, as far as living and breathing it goes, that's one suggestion that I have, is to treat every single action and thought as an offering toward your higher self or your lower self if you're into that thing, but be purposeful and be intentional.
That's beautiful.
Hmm.
You know, I've recently started, like when I go out on walks or when I do my runs, I like to actually offer the energy output from every.
That's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah, and I'll just designate a whole bunch of spirits and be like, just divide this amongst yourselves.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
that's awesome. That's awesome. So you're pretty active then.
Oh, I love working out. I get super depressed when I'm not.
I'm the same way. I've always got to be doing something. Otherwise I'm stagnating.
Yeah, right. I feel that.
So would you like to talk to us about what some of your greatest strengths are when it comes either to life or practice in general?
So I would say, as far as my strengths, so I'm going to give you a strange one. I'm on the autism spectrum. I have mild Asperger's.
Okay.
That affords me at least the way I see it, it affords me the ability to see in angles that people normally wouldn't expect.
Mm-hmm.
As well as like I get to perceive a bit deal more by default than the average. I would say I'd say like the being able to perceive things but thinking about things.
Okay. So being outside of
sense.
the box naturally.
Yeah, exactly. I'd say that would be one of my natural talents. As far as magically goes, like I am way better at channeling stuff that involves like the demonic tongue and like spells like that, rather than channeling like gnosis about things.
Okay.
So like I'm really good at being able to channel different rituals and stuff like that.
That's a very powerful strength to have. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just saying I'm also pretty good at at tarot reading. I've been doing that for several years, well, since 2016. And
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm feeling like I want to go professional with it. I just haven't gone out of my comfort zone that far enough yet. But I do have full intention of within the next like month or less, probably.
I do that semi-professionally. I have a part-time job with tutoring occult practices, a part-time job doing spiritual counseling, and then I'm also a part-time student taking kinesiology courses because I'm a spiritual therapist. Now I'm learning how to be a physical therapist. That way, whatever the person's problem is, I got it. Like I can help you out no matter what it is. So
Right.
do you have any, you mentioned being and having a greater affinity with the darker, more demonic side. Do you have any experience in the Qliphoth or in the tunnels of Set? Yeah, is that something you'd like to talk about?
Oh, hell yes. Hell
Let's
yes.
do it.
So now I would say my Qliphothic journey, I would say, is a little over 60%, because I'm a person that I like to go very slow and steady at things. I like to really soak up as much as I can. And so yeah, I did the 10 spheres. That was an extreme experience, man. Those last two were painful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I love doing that sort of stuff. The tunnels, I'm working with the tunnels right now. Basically, yeah, I've been only experiencing some great stuff. I'm always a little afraid to open the next one at first, but then when I do, I'm like, what was I afraid of? This was awesome.
Yeah, it's like a Band-Aid, man. You just gotta rip it open, and
Yeah,
just get it done.
Hell yeah.
That's I'm glad to hear that you're taking your time, because so many people are just so gung-ho to just get through it, to say that they've done it. But if you rush through it, you didn't do it at all. I mean, and speaking personally, I'm going through the third time right now. I'm doing my third attunement right now, because the way that I see it, and Kabbalistically, there's at least 4 worlds.
Yeah,
So
I
the
feel
way I
that.
see it is I'm working through Thagirion of Bria right now.
Hey,
And
nice.
so when you said 60%, I was like, well, that's interesting because I'm in the 6th sphere, which it's not the 6 going from the bottom, but
Right.
it was interesting because you said 60, and I thought, well, I'm actually in Thagirion right now, which actually today is the day that I'm spacing between, which means that tomorrow I will be going into Qliphothic. So that's going to be an intense journey.
Hell yeah, good luck, man.
Thanks,
Well,
I
I know you
appreciate it.
don't need luck. You got it.
Yeah, I appreciate it though. So what have you worked with the Sephiroth at all? The Etz Kodesh, the light side of the tree.
So I have not started working with that, but I fully intend on it.
I
just
recommend it.
focus on the dark 1st,
Mhm.
and then on the light, and then work at going beyond the 2 and balancing the 2 in ways that I didn't even know possible before.
Absolutely. And another reason that I'm going through, or that I go through multiple times, the reason I'm going through a 3rd time is because it changes every time you go through. Once you get to Talmael, Nehemeth or Lilith is different.
Yeah, right.
It's different than it was last time because it's like you can never go home again, and like you can never step in the same river twice. It's like as soon as you get through, it's different. And I think that might have something to do with the 4 worlds, or it might have something to do with the evolution of the consciousness, but it's definitely a ride. What has your experience been with the tunnels? Because most people don't have an experience with the tunnels. Is that something that you could talk to us about?
Could you repeat that last like 2 sentences? It went all cutty outy.
Maybe that's a sign that we shouldn't be talking about it, but I'm going to persevere anyway. I was asking what your experience with the tunnels was like. Most people don't have experience in the tunnels.
Okay, so far, so basically the at least the direction that I approach it, I know there's people that'll start bottom and end at top. I decided after at the Thalmael experience, I was like, okay, I'm gonna just manifest starting with Aleph all the way down. So I'm so far I am I'm in Urians at this moment.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so basically, so also when I'm saying I'm 60% of the way, I'm including the 10 of the
Sure.
Qliphoth first. Yeah, excellent. And but yeah, basically like it is like moving through like dimensions that are there that you didn't realize were right there. And like it's hard to describe.
It's so subjective, which is why nobody ever wants to talk about it. Let me ask you this. Have you heard of The Night Side of Eden, the book The Night Side of Eden? Okay.
I have. I'm actually using that as kind of to supplement with the information so I can better assimilate the understanding.
Excellent. So do you know who Linda Falorio is by chance?
Yes, the Shadow Tarot. I actually have.
Dude, you really? All right, dude. Awesome.
That's awesome.
Most people don't know about that tarot, and I actually, what I do when I'm working through the tunnels is I will set the I will put the reversed tarot card in front of me, and then I'll put the Linda Falorio Shadow Tarot like in front of that, so they're kind of like this, and I will just sort of like project into the frequency the feedback that is created by them. And that's one way that I project into the tunnels. I also have a black mirror that I use that I draw glyphs and sigils on, but between my black mirror, the Linda Falorio, and the reversed tarot card, like it's just like I just get like sucked right in there.
Man, I need to try that because I do a similar thing, surprisingly enough. I literally just I put the Linda Falorio card on there, and I have some of my personal rune set that I'm not even going to get into. I put that on top, and then from there I basically kind of like I put it over the headboard where I sleep. So that way it'll be just constantly opening and coming in to my and all that. Yeah, man. Like that, the way that I project into the tunnels, though, like I need to try that going through the card. I've done that in like for meditations, I've used the card, but for me, I like to just open a portal in front of me to it. And then I just close my eyes, just visualize just the portal overtaking me, and then we just see what'll happen. Usually I get
Blast off.
reborn from my black flame at least twice in the meditations.
It happens.
Right?
Awesome. So yeah, I mean, man, it sounds like we have a lot to talk about off camera as well.
Yeah, we do.
Personal rune sets, Qliphothic, and you know, the tunnels. Yeah, that's all good stuff. So I guess is there anything else that you wanted to cover in regards to the Qliphoth and the tunnels, or?
Nah, I think that we did pretty thorough, I'd say.
Awesome. Let's move on then. So what are some of your greatest weaknesses?
Greatest weaknesses. So I would say doing things on a regular basis. That's
Consistency.
really
Yeah.
hard thing for me. Like no matter what, I do like I pray, to whatever demon I'm working with, like twice a day, once in the morning and once at night. But I don't do rituals all the time like I probably should for optimal results, but I've kind of but in a way that's a weakness, but at the same time like kind of helped me in the next part of my journey where I'm like realizing that literally life itself is the ritual, and you don't have to be anywhere or doing anything special. You can be right here casting your spells. That's I manifested almost $2,000 a couple months ago that way.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah, it was actually my first money spell in like years, and I was wildly surprised when it was actually successful.
Good for you. I'm happy to hear that, man. So that's a good segue. You mentioned praying twice a day to whatever demon you work with. Would you be able to talk to us about some of your favorite entities or some of your favorite currents that you've worked? You don't have to talk about current things, but maybe in the past, some of your favorite currents or entities that you've worked with?
Yeah, so let me see. So I would say first off, I got to give a huge shout out to Beelzebub. He actually was the first spirit that like really took me under his wing. Like before I even like really understood that much about magic, like the rituals that I channeled from him, in like some more obscure sort of initiations, because I was like, let's just jump into this, see what's gonna happen. Like
Right.
some really amazing rituals came from him. Let me see. Some other excellent beings that I love.
I imagine. Okay.
What's that?
Okay. No. I was gonna make a bad joke about. I imagine that Belial is someone that you enjoy working with, but you were talking about Chavajoth or Clabayot.
Yep.
Okay.
And yes, yeah, I have worked with Belial, and he is awesome as well. He actually helped me do an exorcism on my best friend when I found out he had been, without my knowing, possessed by a malicious entity for like 9 years. And I was like, let's see if this will actually even work, because I know like after it's in there for like a month or two, it's almost impossible to get out. At least that's what I had heard in the past.
Interesting. I've never heard that before.
Well, my experience disproved that.
I have not had an issue with that before, but yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, it's it definitely worked. The thing about like, I don't know where I heard the 30 or 60 days thing from, but yeah, that obviously turned out to be false, thankfully. Belial's awesome. But yeah, Chavajoth, fucking amazing. I love Hecate as well. Let me see. Ukobach has some powerful secrets that he can share.
I'm not familiar.
Oh man, I believe he was first mentioned, at least publicly, in Colin de Plancy's Dictionnaire Infernal, I believe. It's said of him that he maintains the boiler room of hell, and also I found like later he actually is one of the beings under Beelzebub.
Makes sense.
Beelzebub was actually the one who tasked him with managing the boiler rooms.
Okay.
And so yeah, Ukobach is fucking awesome. I love working with my local spirits. I don't ever do like rituals to them, but I do give them like offerings and reverence. And I found that like just merely just, taking a cup of water and just being like, I offer this to, all the local spirits and elementals here, and you just pour it out like
Sure.
like that. I found that just merely doing that will put me in a better sort of mood, a better headspace. So there's definitely something very tangible on the subtle levels that's going on there.
Yeah.
So yeah, like hell yeah.
That's great. You mentioned a lot of really powerful ones. Beelzebub is someone that I've worked with pretty extensively as well. I know him as Beelzebul, but they like to give us different names sometimes. But Beelzebul or Beelzebub was one of the first that I was able to channel as well, and it was
Nice.
for a protection spell, which was surprising to me because
he's a beast at that.
Yeah, but I wasn't expecting it at all. I was, because I think wisdom and Hokmah when it comes to, or Gogiel, like when it comes to that. And I don't think protection when I think of those spheres. I think of, like Bana or Satariel when I think of protection, or Golakab or Gevra. So the fact that he gave me a protection spell that was as powerful as it was, I was just like, he had a spot on my altar for a month after that. You know what I mean?
Hell yeah. That's awesome.
So what is the hardest part about being a practitioner in your mind?
The hardest part about being a practitioner, I would say the hardest thing would probably be, well, one of three things actually.
Okay.
So I would say, like, number one, just doing it, like getting out of my own way. Like it's still a work in progress, but like that, getting out of my own way has been quite a struggle. But I would say that's one of the harder things, of just getting out of my way, just doing it, not coming in, like trying to put the preconceived notions and normalcy bias at the door. That's a challenge. I would say another thing would be like, I hate how society has this negative stigma against people like us.
Me too.
It's like they don't understand, so they hate it irrationally. And it's like, and it's just so it's so unfortunate, because there's like, I mean, in my life, when my day-to-day life, people around here are pretty open to it. My friends are, even my one friend who's a devout Christian, even she, vibes with some of the stuff that I say, like, but I just wish there would be a more
open dialogue about it.
What's that?
Just a more open dialogue in general about it.
Yeah, exactly. Just, it shouldn't have this stigma against it, because really we could get so much further if we started working together, instead of hating people because, hey, you believe different than I do, you think about things different. I hate it. Like, we're not getting anywhere with that.
No.
So I'd say also secrecy. That's really hard. Yeah, there's so much stuff I would love to talk to you about right now, but that I know that I can't mention to anybody else ever.
Yeah,
like,
I get it.
It's hard.
So as far as getting out of your own way goes, this is an old technique, but it's tried and true. Some people think that it's goofy to use like ritual implements, But there's really only one ritual implement that I really like to use, and that is a robe. I will put on a black robe
Oh,
because that signifies to my subconscious it's time right now to do magic.
black
But it
magic time.
also do what?
I said black magic time.
Yeah, black magic time right now. But it also reminds me that my day-to-day intellect and ego aren't the ones doing the work. You know, it's about putting on the
Right.
cloak of my shadow and my black flame, you know, and
Hell yeah.
so that's something that I use that you might find utility in. Even if it's like a ring that you put on or something, that can go a long way to triggering the consciousness to switch over to the other hemisphere of the brain or to the other, you know, side of the consciousness. Just
Awesome.
a tip, one practitioner to another. Use it if you want or don't, you know. Yeah, rings are really cool because they don't distract you. It can get hard to get used to the hood over your head when you first start going and you hear the ruffling on your ears and stuff. But a ring, you put a ring on and it's like trigger and then it's out of sight, out of mind. So maybe try a ring or something. Just a thought.
Yeah, definitely. Really good idea. I'm going to certainly put that into practice.
Excellent.
So we could get a cloak from, like the black robe. Anywhere?
Yeah, I can. I can. It's funny because the one that I use is it's almost like a jacket with a hood, but it's not. I don't know how to explain it, but it's something that someone gave me as a gift. And I was like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to use this for, you know, like I'm never going to wear this. And then like I saw myself in my temple and I was like, oh, I can use this as a robe. But there's a couple websites. Is it Azoth Art, or I'll have to look up the website. There's a website that makes really high quality things that a lot of my partners use, and nice, really thick stuff. But I mean, really, like any traditional black robe or anything, you can even wear like a hoodie, you know, and then just put your hood up. You know what I mean? It's it doesn't have to get too complicated. You know, the last thing I want to push is a necessity on material things for magic, because it's not necessary to have material components. Exactly. When I first started, I found the material components distracting. I was like, okay, I've got my athame and I've got my robe and my chalice and everything, and I'm like, well, now what? And when I learned to just set all that stuff aside, my magic improved. And it's only recently in the last 3 years that I started using a robe and athame again, just because it puts me in the zone. It puts me in the mood, you know. And I think magic is so much about atmosphere, I find.
Yeah, for real. Like for me, when I first started, I was like, because I had heard those same things about like that the ritual implements would be, you know, distracting, and people were like, you know, you don't really need them. So I was like, I thought to myself, you know, if a lot of people say, oh, you should use these for training wheels, I'm going to actually do the opposite of this. I'm going to learn it initially without tools, and I'm going to get to the results that I want. And then once I get to the point that I want to be at without the tools, then I'm going to add the tools and get even stronger instead of the training wheels, time to take them off.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, you might be surprised how effective just one ring can be, especially if it's consecrated and charged and, you know, all that stuff.
Great minds think alike. That was exactly what I was thinking when you were mentioning it.
So you discussed one of the difficulties about being a practitioner was keeping silence. So normally the way I phrase this question is just to trip people up a little bit. Normally I say, is silence overrated? Because I don't believe that it is. But sometimes if you ask somebody if silence is overrated, it can make them think, well, is it? You know, because some people adhere to silence to their detriment. You know, they don't share anything with people, so they don't learn, and people don't learn from them. So where is the line in moderation for you where it comes to silence? Like, where do you draw the line?
So I would say that when it comes to silence, like, number one, like anything from my like deep personal craft, nobody's talking with me about that. But when it comes to things that like anything that you'd be able to find somewhere online, like I'll be the first to let you know.
Mhm.
Like,
Sure.
but also at the same time, like when different, it also depends on the person and the situation as well. Because if like if somebody is talking to me and I know that that I have a level of understanding that could benefit them,
Mhm.
that'll be great. If they're talking about something and I know something that could maybe get some information from them to help me, that'd be great. But also at the same time, sometimes like you probably saw my post about tips for beginners on that pinned one on Great Black Lodge.
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
like, there will be people like, there was the other day I was scrolling on Reddit and there was this one post by somebody in like some, I don't remember which subreddit it was. I think it was like teenagers new or something like that. And this one person was like, I want to get all the 72 demons of the Goetia sigils tattooed on my body. And this person ain't even a practitioner. And I was like, and people are like, in the comments, they're like, oh, what are those? Oh, that looks cool, and other people are like, oh, why would you do that? And me, I'm like, it'd be a lot cooler if you actually like to actually experience it and have it tattooed on your
Like
soul.
badges, like as you do them.
Yeah, right. And I sent them the information for tips for beginners because I don't know if they'd be into that or not. I don't know if they're just wanting a cool aesthetic or something, but I'm hoping that they want something deeper than just a cool aesthetic.
Yeah. Yeah. I believe, I'm of the personal belief that a tattoo should mean something because it's going to be on your body the rest of your life, but also it manifests an energy
For real.
within your aura. So, and as well as other places. So to just get blasted with 72 goetic spirits, like that's intense, man. Like I have evoked all 72 spirits, and I don't know,
Oh,
maybe 20 or 30 of them to physical appearance, which for me was just a
that's
clairvoyant experience. But I wouldn't even do that. I wouldn't even like I work with the Shemhamparash angels and the goetic spirits, depending on which client wants what. Because some clients aren't cool with demonic spirits. Some clients want angelic or elemental spirits. So but yeah, I wouldn't even do that. I wouldn't even get all 72 spirits tattooed on me. That's intense.
yeah,
Yeah.
same. I couldn't even imagine what it would do to that poor person's consciousness, especially
Yeah,
if they're
like
not
in this
like,
life and the next one.
yeah, right. It's like, welcome to your new forever, bucko.
So perfect segue into the next question, which is what are some things that one should avoid? Maybe jumping into things we're not prepared for.
So let's see some things to avoid.
Mhm.
The maximum amount of spirits I will offer my blood to in one sitting, and I give long buffers, is 4. I don't feel comfortable with doing any more than 4. That's a very rare sort of experience anyway. I only did that like once.
Mhm.
But usually like because I'm under the impression that because as you offer your blood to a spirit, it's with you permanently after that. So I'm pretty choosy about that. Like if somebody was foolhardy and was like, man, I just offered my blood to all the 11 Qliphothic lords in one sitting, like might not go well. I mean, that'd be a different thing than offering it to Chabajoth, since meta god versus a group.
Sure.
But yeah, like that might not be the best idea, things like that. Let's see. Misusing magic, if it seems like people wanting to throw curses around, you know stupid. It's like if you're not like ready to actually, like if you don't actually feel a genuine need like to even step it past a physical level,
Mhm.
why do you need to go to a spiritual degree? I mean, like if somebody royally pisses me off, I mean, I might do something to like make them develop in a way that would refine whatever trait,
Mhm.
in kind of painful way in the process if they were, terrible or something or very cruel or whatever. But like, you know, like aside from that, like people just being like, man, this person called me names online. I'm gonna go and kill them now. It's like, are you joking?
Right. Yeah, you stepped on my shoe, Death Spell Omega.
Yeah, right. It's like people like that don't last long.
No, they don't. And that just makes more room on the road for the rest of us, I guess.
Yeah,
but
right.
we should try to help people out who are lost and confused like that, because if you're throwing around curses and you don't know what you're doing, chances are you're doing more to yourself than to the person that you're sending them to.
Because most people don't realize that if you're cursing somebody and the actual perpetrator is your own ego and it was an illusion, guess where the target is.
Exactly. Well said. So avoid just running off the fucking rails for no reason. And don't dive in too deeply before you have the experience too, basically.
Yeah, for real. Like that's another really big thing. Like if something's labeled advanced and you've only been practicing for a month, not the plan.
Or a year even.
yeah, for real. Man, just like literally just, I think it was about 6 or 7 months ago. It was like December, January, I think it was. I did this one ritual. It wasn't like, like I didn't think it would be advanced, but I knew the powers that I was calling was going to be pretty fucking powerful. But man, I shouldn't have been drunk at the time, because when they came, I was fine till the moment the oration ended, and then I found I'm now not able to fucking stand. I'm so sick. I got to go to the bathroom.
Oh no!
It was like, yeah, this is like the last time I'm going to be doing a ritual when I'm crocked.
Yeah, that's another thing to avoid. So I guess now, have you ever used any sort of entheogens or psychotropics during ceremony?
Yeah, furs. As a matter of fact, I have I designed a recipe myself. I also have this on the Great Black Lodge subreddit as well for anybody that's interested. I call it the nootroponeric potion.
I've seen that.
Okay. Oh, nice.
Okay, yeah.
It has a few different things in it. Anybody interested, I'm not going to go through it. Just look it up.
Sure.
But basically, it has a few different things in it. It basically, so there's chemicals in your brain that when you sleep makes your dreams dimmer. So it inhibits those chemicals, so that way you'll be able to dream more vividly. It also has herbs in it as well that have those nootropic purposes as well, specifically in the brain-derived neurotropic factor. It increases almost a little over half of the ingredients in it increases the BDNF. But yeah, basically using this particular combination, it was fantastic. Like there was a time so I had tried it a couple times prior to the actual big experience, and I wasn't using anything additional with it, because another thing also, the chemical reaction of the very specific things that I chose also synergizes any psychedelic for spiritual purposes. So like I did this really small, like it was a stem of a mushroom about like that tall, and it was one of those thick ones. It was about that wide. Normally, obviously not enough to say much. But with this potion, it radically empowered that experience, and I used it in a ceremony where I literally integrated my higher, well, no, that wasn't the order. I started with integrating my shadow. I then after I did that for about 10 or 20 minutes, and like it was insane because I was able to actually behold it
witness
for the first time. Yeah, it was literally like a perceptual organ in a different dimension opened, and it was amazing. So I started with integrating my shadow on that. It was excellent. After that, I was like, what better way to segue than to do a trauma release exercise? So I did this one designed by this PhD guy. I linked it in the post as well. And I did that, and I noticed something. The tremors that it caused got all the way up to the top of my head, which I hadn't done it enough times for that to, I mean, I did it 3 times prior, but I hadn't got it, raised it to that point. But I noticed it didn't just stop there. I actually ended up completely accidentally awakening my Kundalini as well. So that was just insane.
How long ago was this?
What's that?
How long ago was this? Just out of curiosity.
This was back in, I believe, March.
Okay.
March of this year. It was either February or March, I think.
Okay.
Well, no, it was, maybe late March, early April then in that case. So yeah, in that ballpark. And so after doing that, I was like, all right, I'm gonna go and integrate my spirit animal. And I went and did that. And it was really fuzzy before, but that was the first time it actually clicked. And I actually understood truly what they mean when they say that everybody has 3 aspects to your spirit animal. I finally understood that they're not separate things. They're the same thing, just the different attributes. Like, it blew my fucking mind. After that, I segued and went and started integrating my higher self. And that was intense. That was the first time I ever actually got to behold my higher self as well. So it was just a beautiful experience all in all. But yeah, even if you're not using some psychedelic with it, it still is extremely beneficial. Like, do it just 30 minutes before you go to sleep, or drink it first thing as a tea. I mean, it tastes delicious anyhow.
So just out of curiosity, I've got a little bit of a background in herbalism just from studying psychotropics and entheogens. Does it have rue in it?
No.
It doesn't? Okay.
No, it has here, hold on a second. It's hold on a sec. Okay, you're still there, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Perfect. And I can still see you too.
Awesome. So I am glad that is not interfering with anything. Okay, so hold on a sec. I'm gonna just get it up and read it. Just the recipe for it, just for the hell of it. Let me see. There it is. All righty. Okay, so you get about 2 cups of water. It's 1 tablespoon peppermint, 1 tablespoon turmeric, 1 tablespoon ginger, 1 tablespoon basil. If you can get Tulsi, holy basil, that's way better. I haven't been able to find it, but more power to you if you can. 1 tablespoon cinnamon, 1 tablespoon tarragon, 1 tablespoon sage, 1 tablespoon black pepper. Steep that for 5 minutes, separate teeth from matter, discard the matter. Then 2 tablespoons of honey. That is not for flavor either. That's an ingredient.
Sure, yeah.
1 tablespoon vanilla extract and 2 drops of lavender essential oil. Also, I would recommend making the essential oil yourself, because I've heard bad things about using essential oil too regularly. I don't know if in that amount it would cause problems. When I've used it, I've used just regular store-bought essential oil, but I might be retarded. So
it sounds like a masala chai, like a chai tea, flavor-wise almost.
Oh, it tastes delicious.
I can't wait to try it. That sounds really good. You mentioned earlier that people are pretty open about magic in your area, or did I misunderstand you?
So they're not necessarily hostile to, at least my friends aren't necessarily hostile to it. I mean, I live in a predominantly like Catholic and Methodist Baptist sort of area.
Okay.
So like I know a lot of people, wouldn't necessarily take kindly to this, but I mean, like of my friends, like I have two pretty good friends of mine are practitioners pretty avidly. My girlfriend, well, she's not from the area, but she's way heavier into it than I am. Even
really?
Like, yeah,
that's surprising.
Yeah, she's very, very impressive person. She's amazing. I love that woman. But yeah, basically, yeah, even my friends that aren't practitioners, for the most part, they're all pretty open to it. Even my one friend that's a Christian, I'll get to talking to them and end up talking about magic. And even my one buddy who's an atheist, like he didn't even believe it. And one time I actually, I was like, I'll record one of my rituals and I'll just show it to you. And I showed it to him, and he's like, well, man, I guess you got your proof.
That's funny. It's funny too, because to me, I was raised Catholic and Christian. My mom's side of the family was Catholic and my dad's side was Christian. Christianity is a fucking magical religion. Like, don't let anybody tell you that Christians don't do magic. The Bible is one of the biggest grimoires that I have ever read.
That's a fact.
One, and
That's
two,
a fact.
if you've ever been to a Pentecostal or a Baptist service, you can't tell me they're not doing sorcery. They're talking in tongues. They're igniting the Pentecostal flame. Like, they're holding like serpents and things.
Nice.
Like, if that isn't magic, then I'm in the wrong profession.
Right? It's like even prayer alone is a type of spell.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the most powerful
Christians,
forms. Yeah.
Yeah, right. They'll like think that they're against magic, yet it's like you're spiritual. You like, I mean, in my area, unfortunately, most of the Christians, aren't all that spiritual people. I mean, they'll pray, like, but
Are they like pretty fundamentalist then?
What's that?
Pretty fundamentalist?
Oh, very, very
Okay.
fundamentalist. Yeah, it's unfortunate to see, but I mean, but there's like one of my friends' dad. He's Christian and he's spiritual, and so it is just like what you're saying. It is very spiritual, and like that's another thing about the Bible. Like like I see a lot of time in the black magic community, people will shun the Bible and be like, oh no, that's Judeo-Christian, get that out. No, and I'm like,
yeah.
And I'm like, well, that's only because you were only taught that particular curriculum. Like the actual stuff is, once you peel it back and figure out, okay, what is this really saying? What is this saying to my soul?
Yeah, to me, this one sign of an adept is that they can pull magic from any tradition, and it won't bother them. And I consider myself something of a syncretist, and I try to draw from as many lineages and traditions as I can. And I feel like when I started doing that was another like step up in my magical career, was when I was like, well, wait a minute, I could use that even though I'm not Hindu. That's a powerful fucking ritual. You know what I mean? And et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, if you have an aversion, I'm gonna get flack for this, but I don't care. This channel is about, breaching the gap and enlightenment. If you have an aversion to something, there might be something there you're missing. I have a lot of partners that will not work with the Etz Kodesh, the light side of the tree. They won't work with the Sephiroth. They won't work with the angels. And to each their own, but I think balance and moderation is key. And
exactly. I was just about to say, if you're only binding to one side and shunning the other, those are two parts of reality that uphold the same balances. Like, what are you doing if you're completely against one side or the other?
Yeah, it's funny because it's the angels, the angelic spirits, that actually convinced me to start working with the demonic spirits in the first place.
Oh, that's crazy. I kind of have a reverse of that. It was actually because I went from being, because I was brought up Baptist. I became an atheist later on, and then it was after I was going from being an atheist to learning magic and actually applying it, and it was right at the time that Beelzebub came to me.
Right, of course.
Yeah, he was telling me about like Jehovah's control mechanisms. And he was like, the Bible is not Jehovah's. You need to start reading the Bible. And I'm like, but why? Like, I thought you were a demon. Like, I thought the Bible was bullshit. And he's like, no, read the Bible. He specifically said for me to read the book of John, the book of Revelation, and study that.
Ooh, I love it. Especially the first John chapter 1, verse 1, it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. That's a sorcerer's paradise right there. And Revelation is a fucking astral projection. Revelation is path working.
Yeah, for real. It's insane how like so many people just will disregard. They'll throw the baby out with the bathwater. They won't even be interested. Yes. It's bonkers to me.
Absolutely, man. It sounds. I'm finding more and more that we have in common. So
yeah, right. This talk was destined.
It was, man, and it might have had something to do with that thorn rune that you were using, man.
Yeah, right. I actually was wondering that earlier today. I was thinking, did my use of the letter thorn alter the timeline this much?
Who knows, man? Who knows? I would say that I was probably 300% more likely, maybe even 327% more likely to contact you because of that out of the box mechanism that you were using. So yeah,
that is awesome. I am so honored to hear that.
Well, it's an honor to speak with you, man. It's been great so far, I guess.
I'm honored just to be here.
So what are some ways to recognize that one might be under attack or assault magically?
So I would say whenever, like, now this hasn't I mean, there have been times that I've, like, nothing started to manifest with it, but whenever with me I start to either I'll have this feeling in myself of just I think somebody might have cursed me recently, and then I'm like, a few days later I'm like, yeah, I'm still feeling like something's happening. Or like if my ear rings and it doesn't feel like somebody's talking about me or thinking about me, but instead doing some shit. There was one time that I freaked the fuck out because this was a few years ago, and I came off of a bad relationship, and a friend of his was a huge asshole, but he also was a black magician too, and literally, but not necessarily the sort like you or I that actually like is like, oh yes, this is balancing. It was like more of a way for him to sidestep more and what's okay with things. So like I smoked up at the time, and I had this vision of him doing this really weird ritual, and I'm like, oh, I wonder if this actually happened. I'm gonna do a curse breaking just in case. That was before the point that I got to where I'm at now, where nowadays if I feel that way, I'll do the divination first to see if it's just, in my head, because, I know that doing a curse breaking, isn't going to hurt anyone because I don't put anybody as like a target if I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, whenever I start having that feeling like, oh, maybe I've been cursed, that's when I'm like, time to do some divination.
So intuition is a big part of it for you then?
Without a doubt. My sister actually was semi-recently, I think last month or the month before, there was this one girl that basically we, through completely magical means, found out that her boyfriend had cheated on her, and on her first Mother's Day of all that, after she had her kid.
Come on, man.
Oh, what a fucking dink. But yeah, like he apparently so we found out about the cheating through magic, but then later now normally I don't hold any weight to TikTok. I'm not even on that shit. Like I don't care about it, but I know anything can be used,
Sure,
by the spirits to show you things, depending on what you're supposed to see. so my sister got this one video just out of the blue. She doesn't even watch like magic stuff or tarot reading stuff on their videos or anything. But this video came up, and and it was literally somebody that was like, you've been cursed. Somebody's cursed you recently. And then I'm like, okay, so my sister told me about that. I did a bunch of divination on it. And yeah, sure enough, the person he cheated on her with is a magical practitioner who cursed her. Then I did one of my personal divinations with kind of a old children's game, Gulp. I don't know if you've ever played it or even know what that is. It's like fish. But
Okay.
yeah, basically I use that to discern, like if I'm thinking about whooping someone's ass, I'll do that to discern power levels, so I know if I should like actually do it or not.
And true chaos magician fashion, using a children's game for a divination. I love it.
Yeah, right. For real. And yeah, I found out she's basically, she's super new. She's apparently having an ego flare up or something. But basically, I was like, yeah, we're not having this. So I channeled a ritual to neutralize it, take it off of her, and not only send it back to the person who did it, but also bind her in a couple different ways. Yeah, and then there was a couple other little things that I added in there to like reverse the curse's effects if any took. But yeah, it was crazy because like we were gonna do it the day before we actually ended up doing it, and my sister was like, "Oh,
okay." So I'll do my best to edit that out. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much. I don't mind you knowing my name, but other people can get fucked. But so yeah, so she was like, I saw this this other video that where they're saying you need to get this curse off of you, or the effects are going to start manifesting in the next week. And did some divination. Oh, sure enough, we need to do it today. So we did that shit. She's been happy and clean with that ever since. No wampus crap like that.
Good. Glad to hear that.
Yeah, so overall I would say that's the basic gist with the like knowing when I'm cursed.
You also covered what to do if you feel that you're cursed, so I appreciate that. Yeah.
What's that?
I said you also covered what to do if you feel that you are being attacked or cursed, so I appreciate that.
Okay, I didn't even put two and two together, but yeah, exactly. Like.
Okay. And is there any literature or films that you might suggest for a practitioner to check out?
Let me see. Some good literature. I'm a big fan of the Book of Sitra Achra.
Okay.
Let me see. I mean, I could name a lot of books, but I only want to give you ones that like, I know from experience is really good. I mean, like E.A. Coetting's works, they're fantastic. Okay. Anything by Asenath Mason, Bill Duvendak, hell yeah. Okay. Let me see here. Oh yeah, I know VK Jahanam has some brief grimoires on PDF that you can get. I think I believe it was called The Rites of Akhraim was this thing with Qliphothic initiation. Yeah, like there was another one, the Black Lodge Meditations is a really good one. Okay. Also by VK. Here, I'm just gonna name some of the VK ones really fast. Let me see. What was the other one that I had in my mind? Falsifierian alchemy for beginners. That
yep,
one was also
I read
really
that as
good.
well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I approached that before I approached the Qliphoth, because I was like, I want to see like what actually initiating into something is like, what actually what that's all about. And so like getting that kind of like gave me a good hold on like the basic gist of what to do that's actually, I mean, like in a completely unrelated sort of way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you utilize sigils in your work?
I do sometimes. Yeah, it
Okay.
depends. I'm getting more into sigil work recently. I'm actually working on some new technology through compound sigilling.
Spicy.
Yeah. So there's going to be some of the fruits from that are going to be I'm going to be posting about on Great Black Lodge.
I'm looking forward to hearing it. Sigils are at the very, I don't remember the last working I did where I didn't utilize a sigil.
Oh,
I mean, like,
nice.
I literally look for reasons and excuses to use sigils because of how powerful they have been in my craft.
Right.
I mean, it's like I literally don't remember. Like, I don't even think I've lived in this house for 7, almost 8 years, and I don't think a single working I've done here has not utilized a sigil. So
Nice.
I love sigil craft. I've got sigils all over my walls for different things, and some people release their sigils. Some people, I guess that was another thing I wanted to ask you. Do you ever keep sigils around, or do you always release them, or do you never release them? Where do you stand on what to do with a sigil once it's made?
So it really depends on the purpose.
I agree.
There's a couple. Well, at least one to my knowledge I've had active for quite a considerable amount of time. A while back, I had a few that I accidentally lost. Bad idea, but I lost, and then a few years later, I was cleaning out my room, and I'm like, "Yeah, this work has been completed. We need to burn this." And but yeah, I mean, for the most part, I'll burn them immediately. But I'm also experimenting with some different ways of embedding sigils than normal, and
I can't wait to hear about that. Have you ever tried releasing sigils? I come from my background was basically a mixture between Wicca and shamanism, because I dated a girl when I was a teenager and her whole family was Wiccan. So like I was raised Wiccan magically, and then I found shamanism through hallucinogens. So I incorporate the elements a lot into my working. So I didn't know if you had ever you can release sigils different ways, and depending on what the sigil is for, like if it's for wealth, to me that relates to earth, so I'll bury the sigil and let it like disintegrate in the ground. If it's for like communication, which is like air, I'll tear it up and like into very, very, very tiny pieces and let the air disperse it. If it has to do with will or something creative, I'll burn it. And if it has something to do with like intuition or whatever, like I'll dissolve it in water or like a lake or like a river or something. So just some more methods for releasing sigil.
Man, I need to try that. I mean, the only thing that I've done closest to that was after I had a burned sigil. There was a specific thing that I was doing that I was instructed to put the offered water that I had on my altar in and mix it all together, pour it out into the grass in my yard.
Okay.
So but yeah, I haven't experimented with very specific release ways, and like, yeah, you also gave me some other good ideas. That the wheels are turning over here.
You've given me some ideas too. So that's one of the best part of this, is because we both get to learn and we get to teach the people who are listening and watching. So part 2 to the question, if you don't mind sharing, this is a little bit personal. Do you have a preferred method for creating sigils?
Preferred method for creating sigils. So what I like to do is, so I have a consecrated pen. I would much rather be using a one of those not gel, but fountain pens. I'd much rather use one of those, but I don't have one, so I don't. I just use a gel pen. I got that consecrated. I do this method that I learned. There was Mayor Jarian adept who posted something on 4chan years ago. I don't even know if the post still exists, but he talked about something like visualize that if you do vampirism, visualize your astral tendrils, a bunch of them coming out of your pupils, wrapping around down your arm and wrapping around the pen and making a tip at the tip. And then just at every stroke, I just visualize the appropriate color or colors that I'm wanting to connect this to, or also the specific feeling of the type of energy that I'm wanting to put in there. Yeah.
Okay. And so,
that's
do you use
gist of how I do it?
Do you use like the Austin Osman Spar method of deconstructing a word? Do you use planetary kameas? There's about 3 major ways that I use to create sigils. So I wasn't sure if you had a 4th way that I didn't know of, or if you just, the default is generally this Osman Spare or Spar method of deconstructing a word into one symbol. Is that the technique that you use?
Precisely. I didn't know that it was from Austin Osman Spare though.
I might be wrong, but he's the first person that I've seen who actually used that idea. People have probably been doing it for centuries, but he was the one that popularized it.
The first one to put it on paper for the public in the creation of your sigil as well. So I haven't experimented with it yet, but it feels like just thinking about it feels like it would be quite powerful.
I can personally attest to the advantages of that, using sulfur, mercury, salt, quintessence symbols can definitely. And I love stacking things in my workings too. Like a lot of times my workings will involve not only an invocation or an evocation, but almost every one of my workings involves creating a sigil and then getting herbs that are correspondent to the working and then carving that sigil into a candle and then packing the herbs into the sigil. And then I'll do the evocation or the invocation or the binding or the curse or whatever. I go heavy. I go hard.
Yeah, right? Man, I need to try that sometime. I've tried inscribing like a sigil on a candle before, but yeah, I need to try that with the appropriate incense added too.
I write a weekly article, and I actually covered that of like a month ago. I'll send you the link to that so that you can see like what my method is for doing that.
Oh, sick! Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Of course. So, last question here. What would you like to learn in the future?
A lot.
What's the next thing you'd like to learn?
So let me see. Well, I mean, I definitely have a lot of room to grow when it comes to my my various psychic faculties and being able to I have a lot
subtle
of room
senses,
sensing like presences and being able to have work on the clairvoyance and whatnot. I actually, when I was looking at your YouTube channel the other day, I found that other channel that with you and an associate of yours, y'all were doing the how to improve your clairs video.
Yeah, that's one thing that we teach. Yeah,
I love that. I like just
if you want to practice, if you want to practice with us sometime, you're more than welcome.
Oh, man, I'm down. I'm down anytime.
Awesome.
Yeah, like that, like I doing that. I found I'm like, I would say between like 40 and 50% was about the, maybe a little less than that, like high 30s. That's a great place to start. I started at around like 20%. So hey, more power to you, man. So you'd like to develop your subtle senses a little bit more as far as the future goes. Yeah, that's a great goal. Right? Yeah, I'd say aside from that though, I would like to be able to what's the word for it? Like, I would like to be able to like comprehend my own magic better, you know, like get a better rapport with my own, like, I'm working at it now, but you know, like, it's an ongoing process, but I definitely do want to keep building that rapport with my own self to be able to express my magical gifts a lot better.
Right. So developing your inner dialogue and just the overall cognizance of how to communicate what's going on and getting it out. Is that kind of
exactly? I would say like also like doing oh man, I lost my train of thought. Hold on a second.
That's okay.
Well, could you say the last thing that you said again to jog my memory?
Just developing an inner dialogue a little bit more and being able to express what's going on internally and getting it out.
Yeah, and I would also like to be able to comprehend more of what's going on behind the veil, like seeing that these different energies at play, and being able to really, like, on a macrocosmic level, I want to be able to grasp things a lot better than I do. It's definitely an ongoing work.
Yeah, definitely. If you stop, then you stagnate. Like, yeah. It's like in this work, if you stop, you're going backwards.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's like what I've often said. Well, recently at least, if you're like, no matter what, you're going to be cultivating something, and either you're cultivating yourself on an upward slope, or you're cultivating yourself in a way you don't want cultivated.
I agree. The way that I say it is, whatever you're doing, you're getting better at.
Yeah,
good or bad.
That's the truth. That's the truth. Hell yeah.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. So make sure you guys check out the Great Black Lodge subreddit, the infoscaping subreddit, and the acanthosophy. Thank you. That's not a word I've ever heard before, if you can't tell.
Right? I made it up. I made it up completely.
All right, awesome. I'll be sure to post those links in the description so that people can, not have to go off my butchering of the pronunciation to try to find it.
Right? Most definitely, man. Thank you so much for having me. It's been the biggest honor. Like, this is by far it's been my dream to be able to know that I'm actually like making a tangible difference in people's lives, and this
you certainly are.
This is making me, that just makes my soul just fly with happiness.
Well, I'm glad that I could help you with that, and help yourself with that. And if you'd like to come on in the future sometime, maybe we'll have another discussion like this.
Absolutely. I'm 100% down.
Awesome. Well, have a good rest of your weekend. I know there's not much left of the weekend, but enjoy the rest of your weekend, and enjoy the rest of the week that's coming up. And I'll send you some messages about robes and different practices and stuff. How's that sound?
Yeah, sounds excellent. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, peace, brother.
You, my friend.
You as well. Thank you. Take care.
Good one. Peace out.